Good evening and welcome to Poland Daily. I'm Nicholas Richardson and this is the news. Only 300 metres is, according to new regulations, to be the distance between a wind farm and residential houses. The parliamentary majority has a legal amendment unlike any other in Europe. The text provides, among other things, for the construction in Poland of used turbines from Western Europe that are at least 4 years old and for the forced expropriation of land for such installations. The media speculates that the whole thing was written by industrial lobbyists, but the names of these people are a secret. Konrad Chmioła has more. At the end of November, MPs from Poland 2050 and the Civic Coalition submitted to the Sejm a draft amendment to the Act extending the freezing of energy prices until the 30th of June 2024. The problem is that the aid is to be financed by money from Orlen and that the amendment contains provisions liberalising the construction of wind farms and windmills. The original draft of the regulations was the Civic platform. We received this project for consultation. I consulted it, submitted many amendments to it. The project includes, among others, recognition of wind investments as public purpose investments. The provision is controversial because it carries the risk of expropriation of land for investment purposes, i.e. deprivation of ownership of rights under the Act. Dear farmers, this bill includes a provision stating that windmills could be built on agricultural land without going through the entire de-agriculturalization procedure. According to unofficial reports from Radio Z journalists Radosław Grutz and Mariusz Gierszewski, Paulina Hennig-Kloska will not take up the position of climate minister, which she originally aspired to. Unofficially, Paulina Hennig-Kloska will not become the Minister of Climate. This was damaged by the windmill scandal. The ministry will probably be taken over by Michał Gramatyka, who was initially considered for the Ministry of Digitization as Deputy Minister. The liberalisation of regulations provided for in the draft act will make it possible to build wind farms right next to national parks and within landscape parks. Interestingly, the Civic Coalition's parliamentary benches include representatives from the pro-ecological Green Party, who apparently did not oppose such wording of the regulations. In addition, regulations regarding the minimum distance of wind farms from high voltage lines will be abolished. This will jeopardise public safety. It is not only about damage to power lines and systems in Poland. Moreover, Orlen may be charged with an additional levy, the cost of which is expected to reach nearly 15 billion zloty. The funds are intended to finance the extension of the price freeze for energy, gas and district heating in the first half of 2024. The mere announcement of the introduction of the new regulations caused a strong market reaction. The Polish fuel company Orlen lost, and at the same time the German company Siemens, which produces windmills, gained. It is unthinkable to harm a company in which the state treasury has shares. Currently, Germany has approximately 30,000 working windmills. Without subsidies, maintaining the oldest ones may be unprofitable, which is why many of them will be dismantled or repowered, the process of replacing older power plants with new ones. Interestingly, the Act includes a provision regarding the modernisation of Polish wind farms with turbines older than 4 years. Such used turbines will be able to operate up to 2 kilometres from buildings. The Act is controversial because operators did not expect such changes, and emotions run high, and rightly so, because the energy sector is crucial to security. The solutions included in the draft amendment to the Windmill Act will enable the construction of silent windmills at a distance of 300 metres from buildings. According to current regulations, wind farms may be built at a distance of not less than 700 metres from houses, provided that a number of obligations towards the commune and residents are met. A more restrictive law applies in Germany, where wind turbines may operate at a distance of at least 1 kilometre from buildings. Prime Minister Mateusz Morawiecki has demanded the creation of an investigative commission into the regulations regarding wind farms proposed by MPs from Poland 2050 and the Civic Coalition. Deputy Chairman of Law and Justice and seasoned freedom fighter Antoni Macierewicz has appealed to President Andrzej Duda not to entrust Donald Tusk and his associates with public functions related to state security. This is the recommendation of the Commission investigating Russian influence. New parliamentary majority dismissed a team of experts headed by Professor Sienkiewicz. More on this from Łukasz Zmuda. The Commission on Russian Influence recommended that Donald Tusk, Jacek Cichocki, Bogdan Klich, Tomasz Siemoniak and Bartłomiej Sienkiewicz should not be entrusted with public positions responsible for state security. This opinion also applies to former heads of military counterintelligence service, General Janusz Nosek and General Piotr Pitel, for a failure to fulfill their obligations. For about a year and a half, the Polish military counterintelligence service fraternized with the Russian FSB without informing the Prime Minister or the Minister, and when they found out, they agreed to something that lasted for a year and a half. It is the duty of the services during their activity to report accurately on their activities. Prime Minister Donald Tusk failed to fulfill his duties because he did not seek the opinion of the Minister of National Defence and allowed the SKW to cooperate with the SSB. Such documents are absent in several dozen cases for about 100 registered meetings. Therefore, the recommendation indicated by the team of experts should be taken into account by President Andrzej Duda, said Law and Justice Vice President Antony Macierewicz. Giving power to these people, this formation, is a thing that may have a catastrophic effect on the fate of the Polish nation. President Andrzej Duda has already announced that if the second constitutional step is taken, he will swear in the Prime Minister appointed by the Sejm. The coalition of three parties has indicated from the beginning that Donald Tusk will be their candidate. The published report was accompanied by a document regarding inspection activities carried out in the military counterintelligence service in 2007 to 2015. It shows that at one of the meetings, an FSB officer clearly described the head of the MAK commission investigating the events in Smolensk, Tatiana Anodina. She doesn't have much to say. She will do and say what she is told. The thing is that Tusk knew that Mrs. Anodina's report was false, that she was lying. The Commission to Investigate Russian Influence began its operations on the 31st of August. Its members include experts who deal with issues related to security, recent history and the activities of the services on a daily basis. The team was headed by the Director of the Military Historical Office, Professor Sławomir Cęckiewicz. On the 29th of November, the new parliamentary majority dismissed all the Commission's members. They are very afraid that they will reveal these documents and show what Civic Platform was doing with the reset with Russia. If the recommendations of the Commission investigating Russian influence is ignored, it may have political consequences in the future. The entire content of the report prepared by the Commission on Russian influence will be included in Wednesday's edition of Gazeta Polska Weekly. I decided to give readers a chance to read the report, along with fragments of Donald Tusk's interrogation. On the 11th of December, Prime Minister Mateusz Morawiecki will present a programme and ask Parliament for a vote of confidence. If the lower house rejects Mateusz Morawiecki's cabinet, the new parliamentary majority will entrust the mission of forming a government to Donald Tusk. The new parliamentary majority has described itself as pro-European, so it is no wonder that it expects Poland to adopt the common currency, the euro. However, the Conservatives currently in power are against this. The main obstacle will be the President of the National Bank of Poland, Professor Adam Glapiński. He believes that Poland can join the euro only when average earnings equal those in richer European Union countries. During the election campaign, Donald Tusk announced the removal of Glapiński by force, and now he wants to bring him before the State Tribunal. The head of the European Central Bank, Christine Lagarde, considers such plans to be unlawful. The Polish Central Bank governor is protected by EU laws in the event that the next Polish government wants unlawfully to suspend him and bring him before the State Tribunal, European Central Bank President Christine Lagarde has said. In late November, Donald Tusk, leader of Poland's largest opposition grouping, the Civic Coalition, and a candidate to be Prime Minister, announced that the opposition coalition is considering bringing Adam Glapiński, the governor of the National Bank of Poland, before the State Tribunal for delaying the process of interest rate raises. In a letter to Glapiński on Monday, Lagarde wrote that in the event that such a motion were submitted to the Sejm, the lower house of the Polish Parliament, it would lead to his automatic suspension as both the central bank governor and a member of the ECB's General Council, and therefore may be illegal. She explained that the statute of the European System of Central Banks and of the European Central Bank, in order to guarantee the independence of the governors of the national central banks, offers protection in the case the Sejm was to subsequently adopt a resolution to prosecute you. Lagarde added that the MPB could refer such a resolution to the Court of Justice of the European Union and ask for an assessment of its lawfulness. A motion to bring someone before the State Tribunal, a body which examines the potential wrongdoing of people holding high office, may be submitted to the same by the President or at least 115 MPs. The Constitutional Accountability Committee may decide to file a motion to prosecute the official or to discontinue proceedings. A resolution to bring a central bank governor before the State Tribunal must be adopted in the same by an absolute majority of votes, that's 231, in the presence of at least half of the statutory number of MPs. If the resolution is adopted, the MPB governor is suspended and his duties are taken over by the Vice President of the National Bank of Poland. On Friday, Tusk said in a reference to his earlier announcement on the possible prosecution of Glapiński before the state tribunal that his grouping will not do anything that would disturb stability or undermine the reputation of Poland abroad. On Monday, Ryszard Petru, an MP from the opposition Poland 2050 party, told the TOK FM radio broadcaster that the motion is ready, but that there has been no political decision on the matter. After a month of blocking the border crossings between Ukraine and Poland, the Ukrainian side decided to meet the demands of Polish hauliers and speed up the clearance of Polish trucks that returned to the country empty. Previously, they had waited for weeks. The blockade of crossings through Poland, Slovakia and Hungary was the topic of the meeting of the EU transport ministers in Brussels. A border crossing between Poland and Ukraine will be partially open to commercial traffic on Monday, Ukraine's infrastructure minister announced on Sunday. Alexander Kubrakov said the Uryniv-Dolhobichov crossing would be open to empty trucks leaving Ukraine as the first point on a list of actions aimed at unblocking the border. We're opening the Uryniv-Dolhobichov crossing for the movement of empty lorries leaving Ukraine, he wrote on Facebook. This is a border crossing that usually functions only for passenger cars and buses. In cooperation with the Polish Ministry of Infrastructure and the Lubelski province, with the support of the European Commission, DG Move, it has been possible to achieve an agreement in the matter opening a lane for lorries of a weight of 7.5 tonnes, the Post continued. Kubrakov said that this was the first move Ukraine was making to unblock the border, reduce queues and increase the flow of traffic between Poland and Ukraine. He added that work was continuing towards ending a blockade that has seen long tailbacks in recent weeks due to the actions of protesting Polish hauliers as part of a dispute between Poland and Ukraine over international trucking rights. Other steps agreed on between Warsaw and Kiev included creating separate electronic passes for empty vehicles at the Yahodin, Dorohovsk and Krakivets-Korchova crossing points and launching a pilot electronic queuing system. This will make it possible to lift the blockade as soon as possible and establish uninterrupted traffic across the border, the border guard's statement read. Ukraine's ambassador to Poland, Vasyl Zwarich, said earlier on the 4th of December that some compromises had been reached between the Polish and Ukrainian governments regarding the blockade. And we really hope that these proposals, which we worked out together with the Polish government, will be enough for the protesters to stop the protest. Zwarich said. The drivers, who started their protest on the 6th of November, are demanding the reintroduction of commercial permits for Ukrainian companies carrying goods other than humanitarian aid and military equipment, as well as a suspension of operating permits for Ukrainian haulage firms set up after the outbreak of the war in Ukraine. They complain that their business has been undercut by Ukrainian firms, which pay much less to their truckers and thus have lower operating costs, but are competing with Polish firms. The tougher stance by Poland is supported by Prime Minister Mateusz Morawiecki, who said, "We will very strongly and unequivocally demand the restoration of transport permits for Ukrainian drivers." Polish, Slovakian and Hungarian drivers complain that their Ukrainian peers offer cheaper prices for their services and also transport goods within the EU, rather than just between the bloc and Ukraine. Ukrainians are allowed to operate on the EU market, but they are exempt from the EU regulations regarding minimal pay or rest time that strangle trucking companies on the continent. That's the news. Thank you for watching. Stay with us for the weather, Poland Daily Business and more programmes. But from me, it's have a good night and a better tomorrow.